Okay, well, it's the day after the video went up. I thought there may be a few things that you were wondering or like to know, so I think I shall answer some things that may fit that. That video was, basically 98-99% correct. I don't live in the outback though. That was something that sort of got lost in translation a little bit. It was actually like about 5 months from when I sent raw footage to her to when she actually edited the video and put it up. So that, caused a couple of little bits and pieces. I don't forage for honey, even though I know how to, find it. No, I don't forage for honey, and no, I haven't eaten the native peas here. It turns out the peas I did eat were dun peas, which is a commercial crop for sheep, not really the native ones. But I will eat these native ones out here, and I'll try and buy some more peas, or I've got cans of peas that I can crack open as well to sort of show the comparisons between commercial peas and the native ones. But yeah, I noticed the little wild radish, something must have mucked up in the video conversion, and that just come up completely black. But other than, those minor little things that are neither here nor there, I think it was a brilliant video. I mean, it was ripper. If I had 6 months, I couldn't have made one that good myself with 6 months of playing around. She asked if she could use some of my, bits of audio and footage off other videos, and it looked like a lot of it, more than half of it, was from my videos that I'd already put up on YouTube, not the actual raw footage. So, I'm going to talk about my uncle's bankruptcy. He wasn't technically bankrupt on the books, but he was more or less the same thing. I mean, it was all but bankrupt in name, pretty much. All but bankrupt, except on the official form. People suggest him, why don't you just claim bankruptcy and let the whole lot go? But he realised that if he'd done that, he'd probably lose this place as well. And he only kept this by the skin of his teeth, and I mean by the skin of his teeth. I mean, it was, if it had been another day after that he had to refinance it or whatever, it could have been a day too late. It was really, things were really on edge back in those days. But that was 1998 when I was 16 years old. And I tell you what, man oh man, you want to know the exact dollar figure? Well, it was $500,000 at the time. In today's terms, with the inflation we've got now, and because this is like 15 years ago. In today's terms, with the property values of today, it was about $2 million worth that he douched. I mean, he was given all that in a will with no debt on it, and then lost it. And that's one thing that no way in hell I'm going to let happen, And that's one thing that disappointed my father, was that, he was given it with nothing owing and then lost it. I'll explain a bit about bankruptcy over here and how it all works. As my uncle used to say, and it's true, when you sign a contract, you just open yourself up to whatever. I mean, some of these big contracts, the contract I signed for this place was literally 3 or 4 A4 pages. It was well spread out. It just said pretty simple things, actually very simply worded. But, some of these contracts, like another one I've seen, tiny little booklet, heaps of pages, real fine print, and it'd take you hours to get through the main contract paper, which was actually a booklet. But, we don't have it anywhere near as easy as it has been in the US in regards to, I don't know, Chapter 12, Chapter 8, whatever it is. These sort of voluntary bankruptcies that you have over there, these states where you can hand the keys back, of the house that you bought, and then you could just completely clear of any obligations. None of that happens. It's not that easy at all. Nothing like that is sort of happens over here. Even in England, they've got it better, because when you pay something off on time, you get good points for paying off on time. And if you miss a payment or you're late or whatever, you default, then you get bad points. Over here, we only get bad points. It has also been discovered by some of the media that say if I reckon my mortgage rate's too high, which it is quite high, but that doesn't worry me. If a person says, my mortgage rate's too high, I want to change my home loan, and they go shopping around, they go to other banks and say, this is, my house, I want you to value my house, I want you to have a look into what rates you can offer me. And they go through and they make up a offer, basically, a mortgage offer. And then the person says, well, that ain't so great as I was expecting, so thanks but no thanks. And they reject it. And you know what? It was getting written down as loan not approved, bang, a bad mark against their name, purely for trying to shop around for a better mortgage. Over here, it's not a glorious sort of a setup. The banks are very reluctant to lend, a lot more than American banks. It's sort of, they're going to make sure that you've got enough assets and enough backing so they can get their money back later on. With my uncle Singh, another glorious part of the dealio was they actually changed the lending rate and then bankrupted him after they changed the rate. I mean, they only changed it, like the value of the property and what you can borrow against that. They changed that amount a few percent and then immediately went and said, okay, you're going down, sort of thing. Which, it was only a few percent, and it probably only would have dragged him out another 2 months or something like that. But it's, you open yourself up to a lot of stuff, and I've seen the worst of it. So I may sound very cautious and negative on it, but when you see what I've seen, my father has seen his childhood home that's been owned since the 1800s gone, and things like that. Family was very unimpressed. I think his friends were even more unimpressed. And, some of them just about felt, just about gave up on him, and there was a lot of harsh words said and stuff like that. But you got to realise here that we're in an area where people have been here since the 1830s. We've been here since the 1840s. That's prior to the gold rush. It was 1855 or somewhere around then. And, let's face it, there were a few main families that started up in this whole area. And my family was one of the earlier families. And there are other families like that. And, there's a lot of people that turn out that they're my third, fourth cousin or whatever. Because, over the years, these families have different ones have married different ones. There's a bloke who doesn't share the last name of me and actually has a fair bit of French in him, apparently. And, his great-great-grandma was the first woman who lived in this house I'm now sitting in. There's a lot of sort of, closely twined community. And it's a lot like the hillbilly areas of America. But with all that, when you're sort of disgraced with bankruptcy in front of a tight-knit community, half of whom have been here from the 1800s, as your family has, and you all know each other and you all went to school together and you've technically related way up the line and everything to each other, it's sort of, you know, it's not just, oh well, I'm bankrupt. It's a real shame thing. You know, and I know my uncle felt a lot of grief about it, but he ended up turning to conspiracy theories and essentially blaming Freemasons, and some of us for not helping him out. But I mean, it was a sinking ship, and he would have brought us down with him. You know, financially, he would have taken us under as well, because he never really got on with things or had things really planned properly. It was just frolicking around essentially for years. But yeah, that's a few things about me and my family history. One other thing, on my father's side, we've essentially been farmers since 1565, and I'm the first one not to be a farmer or a farm hand or something like that for most of my working life. So I know the odd thing about sheep or two all the same. Originated from southern England. That's my father's side. My mother's side come from Ireland. Yeah.